Hello again. This time I want to talk about some basic beginner stuff, like basic tips and suggestions that I want new players to learn about. I'll be using the classic TR walkway to help with show off most of the tips. The first basic beginner tip is about the force of nature and how you can do a force of nature jump, like that. So you can use it as a third jump, basically, without using your double jump. It's very useful in most situations. If you need to cross distances or be just unpredictable in your movement. But the force of nature jump only works if you aim down. You can't aim to the side or at an angle, really. It's better to just aim down when you want to force of nature jump. After that, if you want to use bomb to distract a sentry for your team, do not jump. Just try to run at it, basically. Because if you jump, you're not immune to the knockback. So it's often better to just slowly walk towards it rather than trying to jump at it, because jumping at it makes it so that you have a chance to lose progress and lose ground when you get knocked back. But it's not good. You lose a lot of ground and such when you try to jump at it. Also, even if you're bombed, you can still get a kill through the Atomizer or Sandman taunt kill. So, you know, it's useful in that situation. Here's a tip to save your fingers, is that pistols don't have to be spam clicked. You can just hold down the left click button to shoot. This works for all of Scout's pistols and Engineer pistol as well, stock pistol. It's just that, you know, you don't have to spam click it, which I guess some people may not know. If you may not know, the Mad Milk heals when you deal damage to them, but you don't have to be, you know, shooting. So you can just use bleed effects from either the Boston Basher or the Vap Assassin to heal from afar, or healing from while running away. Speaking of which, each source of bleed on Scout is different from each other, so you can have the bleed of a cleaver while having the bleed from a Boston Basher or a Vap Assassin at the same time, so you can accumulate a lot of damage on one person. And here's a niche situation with the Boston Basher specifically, is that you can hit yourself, obviously, when you miss. But you can use that extra damage from getting hit as a source of boosting your jumps. You shouldn't do it a lot, obviously, because you're hurting yourself. But that extra boost can be useful in that situation. But the more important part of the Boston Bash is that if you get hit, you hit yourself a lot. That means you're not overhealed, so the medic gains more uber from healing you, because he's healing normal HP and not overhealing. So if you want to help medic build faster and you're in a safe environment, you just use the Boston Basher to hurt yourself a lot so the medic can gain uber faster. If you aim at the person's feet with a rocket launcher, it will launch them up. This is useful for the direct hit and also the reserve shooter if you want to just use those two as a combo. Another useful thing is actually that you can hold down left click while holding the banner to never let go until you want to. So like if you want to hold off your buff banner, your conjurer, or your even battalion's backup for the right moment, you just hold it until you need to. It will save and you won't let go unless you taunt, like I showed before. It's for situations where you're about to call the banner and you actually start calling the banner, but then your team kills the rest of the enemy team at that battle fight. So you just hold it off until the next team fight. Here's a useful tip that's for all projectile-based characters, like a soldier on demo. It's called shoulder shooting, I call it that. Is that since the rocket originates onto the shoulder of the soldier, you can shoot across the corner and not get targeted. Of course this was long range, but if I do this again but make the sentry a little closer so I can see me when I'm at the doorway, I will be able to shoot it from a safe distance and not be within the sentry's line of sight. Of course I'm going to miss in this recording for a bit because I'm not familiar with the placement, but that's why also with hit marker and hit sound is good, so you know you actually hit the dang sentry when you actually hit it. Ow. So I try again. Bank, I hit it, so I can keep on shooting without getting shot by the sentry itself. But since the rocket originates from the shoulder that your view model is, like if you have a right view model, it'll shoot from your right side, and you have a left view model if it's on the left side with the setting,
The original has a middle view model, so it will shoot in direct center and be useless in shoulder shooting. Here's an old tip that most people know now, is that you can hold your bag of bazooka rockets with a taunt. And if you let go, it will instantly unleash all 3 shots at once. Obviously, if you use a limited time taunt, like the laugh, you'll release whenever you when the taunt ends. But if you have an indefinite taunt, like a high five or any of that, you'll only let go when you finally stop the taunt. This is a common sense tip that if you're charging the cow mangler, you're only stuck with horizontal. You can keep momentum from falling as your main way to move around when you're charging, so you can be somewhat unpredictable. Here's a reminder, but the black box heals 20 health per rocket. Even if you hit multiple enemies, it's only 20 per rocket. Here's a silly fact, is that the disciplinary action has the longest melee reach of all weapons. Longer than the Eyelander and all of Demo's swords. Is that, it's so long that it has the funny ability to hit behind himself. If you are directly behind the soldier, when he turns around with the disciplinary action, he can hit you and kill you. Here's a reminder to never air blast a flog Pyro that's taunting. It'll make him, cancel his animation, but still have his Uber. And you just run around with crits and Uber, and that'll be just dumb and sad. Pyro's fire particles on his flamethrower can linger in the air a bit. From that, you can make it so that you can linger the air particles to hit a Pyro, right then hit it with a flare gun. It's called a flare punch. So you can actually somewhat fight other Pyros, but it's pretty hard to maneuver most of the time. But you just have to get used to setting off the lingering fire particles and then hitting the Pyro at the same time. It's possible to do with the normal flamethrower, but it's a lot easier to do with the greaser, obviously. If you want to air blast people to launch them the furthest away, the best way to do that is by aiming downwards, aiming at their feet when you air blast. I don't know why. You can air blast the best whenever you aim at their feet. So, if you want to knock him off the cliff, knock him into a hole, or just air blast a Ubered enemy away so you don't have destroy the whole team or destroy the whole sentry nest. Just a reminder that the air blast and reserve shooter combo was removed in the Jungle Inferno update, so don't use this together unless you want to fight rocket jumping soldiers a lot. The thermal thruster can be used to stomp on enemies to deal damage, but if you land near them, you push back enemies slightly and extinguish teammates if they're on fire. But also, you can use the thermal thruster backwards. I didn't know that, but you don't have to lunge forward with the thermal thruster, but rather you can also press backwards to thermal thrust backwards. I barely use this thing, so I didn't know that you can use backwards or forward inputs to thrust in different directions. So, that's very interesting, I guess. Here's a common tip that most people should know by now, is that the detonator and the scorch shot technically were the first iterations of Pyro's mobility tool. Take some damage, but it's more useful than thruster most of the time. Extinguisher damage is based on leftover afterburn time. If you just tap a flamethrower, it's barely any afterburn. Flare guns do more afterburn in that situation. Like the soldier, you can use pipes and pipe grenades of the Iron Bomber or Loose Cannon lock and load to launch enemies into the air. But of course, if you use the Loose Cannon, the added knockback of the actual gun just launches them extremely high and far away. Useful for denying Ubers, mostly. Speaking of Loose Cannon, you can cancel before you actually shoot by switching weapons, so you don't waste a shot whenever you accidentally prepare too early. Here's the thing that all stickies have to indicate that they're ready to explode, is that a little flicker of light after a few seconds. Obviously you can see it with the Scottish Resistance by having it show through walls, but having the ability to know exactly when the sticky is available is much easier for timing in practice whenever you need to learn to pogo, sticky pogo or something like that. If you want to use a shield for Demoman, charging will remove most of the important debuffs like bleeding, Girardi, or Mad Milk by just charging yourself. If you don't want to actually melee attack yet, you can just use a charge and then swing instantly after to cancel it. From that, you just instantly wipe most of the main debuffs in a second. This should be a common sense thing for heavy, is to just rev up mid-air, so the momentum carries you faster than you rev up while walking across the sightline. You get instantly headshot otherwise. This is especially important if you want to use the Brass Beast for some specific reason. Here's a decent tip, is that if the heavy is full health and you have a recharging food item, like the banana or sandwich, and you pick up any size health pack, it will instantly recharge the food item. So if you're full health, throw your food and then pick up the small health pack to instantly recharge it. This is not really a tip, but the Rescue Ranger's little bar sine wave is actually tied to your metal count. If you empty all your metal, you barely have anything. It's about to die, about to flatline. But then if you refill your ammo, it goes back to the normal sine amount. This is a common trick, is to rocket jump with the Wrangler with the Sentry, if you have the level 3 available. So you can reposition with the Rescue Ranger and just put a Sentry in a weird spot, or your whole nest in a weird spot. In that same vein, you can use a mini Sentry's bullet damage to knock yourself around, and it won't kill you like a level 3 Sentry would. Uncle Dane talked about this in detail, but you can use the right-click explosion when it hits the floor and an enemy to launch itself up around like a normal rocket jump would. Another fact is that the ball of the short circuit is only dependent on the center part. The other parts can clip through the walls if you just have the center part not hit the wall. It's not directly stated in the description, but you don't have to have a full teleporter pair to use the teleport option in the Yuka effect. You just have to have the exit teleporter built. The common courtesy thing you can do as engineer when you place teleporters is rotate the exit to best prepare the player coming out of it for battle. Having him point towards the wall or something like that is gonna be somewhat disorienting, and they could get like camped and they have no way to retaliate quickly besides doing a 180 flick. It's the same thing with sentries. You don't want the sentry to point at a wall, so why don't you want your players to point at a wall? The teleporter's like little white model doesn't have a front-facing thing like a sentry would, but you can tell what direction the teleporter exit would teleport you in by the arrow on the blueprint itself. Just makes everything easier on everyone. Even though the Crusader's crossbow heals and deals more damage the longer you shoot from, don't be afraid to use it close up if you want to burst heal a teammate. 75 health per shot at close range to heal someone is very impactful still. For syringe guns like the Blutsauger, you just have to lead your shot a whole second from where they are to where they're gonna be at. After you get used to the very long lead, it actually does usable amounts of damage. Not enough to usually kill a lot of people, but certainly enough to be a warding threat if you want to use it as that. If you want to scare people off, it's very, very usable in that situation. So most of the time, try to like make your opponent move in a predictable fashion. Move backwards so they chase you in a straightforward line to better hit your syringes. Maybe go in a more closed area so they don't have a lot of options to move around. Here's a reminder, the taunt with the Kritzkrieg can actually heal you for some amount of health. Useful for when you're about to burn from afterburn or something like that. But you are still taunting, so you could be vulnerable for damage. Whenever you Uber with the vaccinated, it gives you a mega resist to that bullet type. But you don't have to use one per time, you can have all three at once. Obviously it's super risky, but Uber Saw Taunt Kill gives you 100% Uber no matter what. You get one 25% from hitting the first hit and 75% on hitting the final kill hit. The description of the amputate him says you can only do it right click, but you can also use the default taunt to make him do the healing thing. Here's a useful medic tip. If you heal a person and they have a low number under their name, that means that's their ammo count for the weapon they're holding out. So it's better to Uber someone when they're fully reloaded. So like if you see a Demoman or a soldier with 4, that means they have full ammo and they're ready to go with the Uber you're going to give them. As you know, a sniper can't scope in while in the air, but he can fall off a cliff while scoped in to do a falling shot. Did you know that there's a tiny cooldown between scoping in and getting a headshot? It's only a few milliseconds, but you can't instantly scope in then shoot to get a headshot. You have to wait a tiny amount of seconds to actually get the headshot. Just a reminder, but Huntsman can deal enough damage for most classes by just clicking on it without charging. If you want to use the classic, you can charge midair if you use the momentum of falling over as a way to move around quickly. Also, please use the sniper's full charge sound to know when you can actually get a headshot. For sources of self-regen, like the Cozy Camper, the medic regen, or the Conjurer, it actually has to ramp up. It has to take some time to ramp up slowly. So, if you ever take damage while it's trying to ramp up, it's going to get reset. It's just a reminder that the Cozy Camper doesn't instantly heal 4 HP per second. Bullet weapons like the revolver, pistol, or SMG will have a perfectly accurate shot on the first shot after a cooldown of 1.25 seconds. So if you wait a bit, per shot, it will be perfectly accurate all the time. If you start spamming it, it would actually, be less accurate and spray around. If you want to use the Ambassador, you have to wait for the crosshair in the middle, or just 1.25 seconds to get the cooldown again to get headshots. Otherwise, you're just spamming a random lesser revolver. It's better for aiming anyway, so you don't spam your revolver shots. Just take your time, aim each shot, and then you can get headshots after headshots. The description of this Your Turn reward says Silent Killer, so the enemy doesn't make any noise when you kill them, but the kill feed also doesn't notify the team. So on the enemy team, it doesn't show their teammates getting stabbed by Your Turn reward. It doesn't make any kill feed noise, doesn't make any noise at all, but if you get a kill with like a face stab instead, it will show up on the kill feed. Only backstabs are hidden. This is just a reminder that the Spicicle only works to prevent fire damage when you have it out. If you want to get a quick way to cloak through enemy lines with the Deadringer, just use fall damage to proc the Deadringer. But also, to detect spies with Deadringers, you can pick up their ammo box, because the ammo box won't give you ammo. It will be just a fake pickup. So if you don't get any ammo from it, that means you killed a Deadringer spy. You killed the fake version. Sappers just deal damage over time and disable the building, but you still have your gun. You can deal damage and break it faster. The difference is that for sentries specifically, if the spy put the sapper on the sentry, that spy's revolver damage is decreased. So you sap it, and then you deal less damage. Usually it's 40 damage. It's only for sentries. The sapping a dispenser or a teleporter and then shooting it is the same damage. In normal situations, because it's bugged, the Enforcer's damage resist ignoring trait doesn't work on the sentry. But if the sentry is wrangled and has that shield on, the Enforcer ignores it and deals 26 damage still. A common thing you should do if you have the last disguise button is to cloak, then disguise, not disguise, then cloak. You gotta cloak first. Because it's still, even if you're cloaked, you'll still have that particle effect of you disguising. To avoid the disguising particle effects, you cloak first, then disguise. Additionally, if you want to be more in-depth, you can use the last disguise button to switch weapons on the disguised class. If you use out your revolver, you pull out the primary gun. If you pull out your melee, you pull out in the last disguise, you'll pull out the melee for this class. Just a reminder, Spy, whenever you disguise as a class, will get decreased in speed if the class is slower than him. So he will slow down to match the speed of the class. Like if he goes as a heavy, he moves much slower than what he normally moved. But at that same time, he doesn't get speed increase if he disguises a class that's faster than him. So that's why a Spy disguised as a scout looks very strange, because the scout shouldn't move that slowly unless he has the unupgraded baby faces. So if you disguise as a slow class, you gotta make sure you're able to sneak up on the person without using your speed as the main way to get there. Sentries try to track you, obviously, but if you're fast enough or in a certain area, you can trick it into spinning around like a dumb Mario 64 eyeball thing. I'm gonna turn on Buddha in this situation just so I can not get instantly dead by walking up to the sentry. But I walk up to it, and after I walk up to it and get on top of it, I can spin around it and confuse it for a few seconds, and during that time I can smack it with my melee. You can do that with other classes like Pyro to just flamethrower it down while you're safe from the damage. You rarely usually use this technique, but hey, it's better to know it now than later. That's all for what I got, mostly for recording, because I didn't want to bother with the rest of them. But like, you can tell a sentry what sentry level it is by the beeps. Each a level 1 and a level 2 and a level 3 have different distinctive beeps when they're scanning around. Another one is like, during prep phase, you're not going to do much. It's a whole 30 seconds usually. You can just help out the engineer by switching to engineer and build up that teleporter, level up that teleporter, or maybe dispenser before they leave. Another one is like how you can steal kill counts from the Islander and Bizarre Bargain with the air shot. But also the Islander can steal the head kill counts from the Bizarre Bargain or airstrike. But the Bizarre Bargain cannot do that for the airstrike or Islander. The Bizarre Bargain cannot steal kills. And the final tip I really want to hone in is that if you're in a safe spot and the medic is busy healing everyone else and you're low HP, try to stand still behind this corner or a safe wall, and so the medic can quickly crossbow you to full health. That's most of the tips, beginner tips, that I want to give out. There's obviously a lot more, but those are for tutorial videos of other smarter TF2bers. I'm not that smart. I'm not a pro in anything like that. So watch their videos instead, and I think that's all for today. So thank you for listening. Bye bye.